Seest thou not how Allah coineth a similitude, a good saying, as a goodly tree, its roots set firm, its branches reaching into heaven. Calling all poets, you are the writers of intimate dialogue in the world of emotion. We invite you to participate in one of the countless opportunities that our feelings can experience. We ask for your desired words to scatter the page and overstep the boundaries of everyday structure. Today, the world relies on your efforts to write and protect true history, one that we each survive with. Tell your story with the melody of a poem. Be proactive and share what you have hidden in the right occasion. This occasion, you are the poet. Now I would like to introduce Brother Farhan Abdulaziz, who is a youth speaker. Brother Farhan was born and raised in Michigan and is currently a medical resident specializing in emergency medicine. He attended Michigan Islamic Academy. His passion for Islam led him to study Arabic Tajweed during the summer of 2004 in Egypt. He later served as Islamic studies teacher in high school grades at the same school. Farhan has studied extensively with many scholars and who are also part of the Bayana Dream Program, wherein he graduated and earned his diploma in the Arabic language. He is also avid student of Al-Maghrib Institute, having taken classes with them since 2004. He teaches a course which is available online titled The Sweetness of Salah, Developing Khushu in Your Prayer, which is a 16-part in-depth series on how to enjoy the experience of khushu in your prayers. He shared this course with us at Al-Madinah Center in the past February. He hopes to have his next course, Sweetness of Hajj, available soon online, inshallah. And interesting fact, due to his love of cats, some of his friends have dubbed him Abu Huraira. So,
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When I first came here for the Sweetness of Salah class, you know the little shed, I guess it's called, right outside Medina Center? I saw some paw prints. So I was looking for a cat the first time I came here. So when I drove in right now with Ammar, I was thinking, I want to go check for a cat, but I want to embarrass myself, so I didn't. But there might be a cat hiding in there. There is. Give him some food, inshallah. Take care of him. I do love cats. When Ammar came to my house yesterday night, right? Yesterday night, the cat was on top of the fridge, of course, making a scene. When Sheikh Abdul Nasser, he came and went to your community as well. When he first came to my house, my cat, he sat down to eat dinner. It was nighttime. It was like 12 o'clock at night. Just came from the airport. He's tired and he's sitting down to eat. And my cat just jumps up right onto his shoulder and just relaxes right there because she likes to ride around on my shoulder. It's like a little parrot. Cats are fun, and events like this are also fun, alhamdulillah. And it gives you a chance to really show some of the talent that the youth have. And poetry is talent. You know, a lot of times if we're kind of thinking medicine, and if it's not medicine, it's a failure, right? If my kid's not, and it's honestly gotten to the point where it's scary. I can actually tell you of a brother I just came to know of yesterday or 2 days ago. He was under so much pressure from his family to go into medicine, and the expectation of his father specifically to go into medicine, and his mother, of course. And of course there are Hyderabadis. I don't know if there's any Hyderabadis in the house, but it's typical of Indians, Pakistanis, Arabs in general. They want their kids to be doctors. What happened was he went to undergrad and he failed the class in his first year. He failed the class. He's a brilliant kid, mashallah. He had 4.0 through high school. After failing that class, his university put him on probation, and he failed another class, and so he got kicked out. But he didn't have and this guy, I know him personally. He's a personal friend of mine. Somebody who's the most humble guy, the most nice guy, the most friendly guy. We used to call him the big friendly giant, because everybody loved him. He got kicked out of university, and because of the expectations of his parents to do medicine, he couldn't bring himself to tell them the truth. And so he didn't tell them. And he stayed 3 more years at this university pretending to be in school when he wasn't in school. And he literally, I still honestly don't know what exactly he was doing, but he was at the university for 3 years, taking checks from his parents to pay for rent and to pay for alleged tuition, and he wasn't in school. Then he made up that he graduated, and then he made up that he got into medical school. He left out of state and spent another 4 years out of state, pretending to be in medical school when he was not in medical school. And then he got married, telling his wife and family that he's a graduate of this medical school and he's now a doctor. He only has 1 year of undergraduate studies done. And I'm telling you, I know I see some people smiling, laughing, but subhanAllah, this guy's life literally fell apart in front of his eyes. Obviously his wife wants a divorce. I mean, his family's in shock right now. They're taking him to psychologists, psychiatrists. They're going to sheikhs looking for help. And it's remarkable. It's literally in a span of a few days. And I've been trying to do between dropping him off. That's what I've been dealing with the whole day today. It's like trying to give him counseling and talk to him and like. But I'm trying to come to grasp with this. How does someone live 7 years of their lives literally doing nothing? He just went to the gym all day. Like he got in shape, mashallah. Like he used to be kind of overweight. Now he's real thin. But that for 7 years. And he lived this false illusion until they finally found out. His wife got suspicious, and it's like, I don't see you doing anything to try and get into residency. What's going on? And they ultimately found out he never went to med school to begin with. His family found out. And now it's this big problem. And I'm mentioning this to you because I've seen crazy things happen. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen happen. But I've seen other things like this. I've seen Muslim kids write false letters to universities, signing the name of their friend because they both applied to the same med school, and one guy wanted the spot, so they signed a letter from his friend alleging that I'm withdrawing my application to your school, I no longer want to come. It even happened to me. I got into a medical scholars program out of high school. Right? So out of high school, Michigan State has this program where they accept 10 students from the nation. You have your admission into medical school directly. And I don't know for sure who it was. But there's one, so it's kind of like fun, so maybe I wouldn't even get into it. But somebody went to the university and told them that I actually got accepted somewhere else and I'm no longer coming to this university. Although I'm coming to that program. Because he wanted my spot. He didn't get in, I got in. And he wanted my spot. So the pressures that kids are facing and they're growing up with, it's hard for me to grapple still and understand, and I'm kind of sharing with you because it's kind of just like I haven't really thought this through. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is the pressure that the youth are feeling are way beyond what I ever imagined, and way beyond I think what we realize. You're gonna see different cases like this. It's literally kind of beyond reality. But subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ, Ammar was telling me on the way here, one of his teachers said that if all of the ummah was like Imam Nawawi, the ummah would be destroyed by tomorrow. Rahimahullah ta'ala. Because we don't all need scholars, right? We don't all need doctors. We don't all need everybody to be a lawyer, everybody to be a journalist, everybody to be a teacher, everybody to be an engineer. Everybody has different roles to play. And subhanAllah, it's nice that the community like this is putting together a program like this where it's honoring, it's really giving a platform to the people who are poets, right? I don't have any poetry. I'm not going to be performing poetry. The best I could do is quote like Dr. Seuss, and that's about it. I'm not a poet at all. Ammar, mashallah, I watched this video before he came with my cousins and he brought me to tears. Some people just have this gift, right? And so mashallah, we'll see some of the youth and their presentations on the videos and live. And it's good. The Prophet, he encouraged that. He encouraged using people with their talents, whatever unique skill they were good at, and using them in that, giving them responsibility in that, giving them encouragement in that. Bilal ibn Rabah, he's an Abyssinian, former slave who was tortured under the hands of the Meccans. He wasn't the one who had the dream about the adhan, right? When the adhan was revealed to the believers, when they were debating what should we do to call people to prayer, it wasn't Bilal who had the dream that he saw the adhan. It was Umar al-Khattab, and it was Abdullah ibn Zayd. They saw the dream that about the adhan. But the Prophet didn't choose them to make the adhan, he chose Bilal ibn Rabah. Why? Because Bilal had the talent, he had the voice, he had the skill that would be necessary for that job. So not everybody needs to be a doctor, not everybody needs to be a speaker. Musa alayhi salam wasn't the best speaker, right? He made dua to Allah to help untie the knot in my tongue. He wasn't a good speaker, right? So people have different talents. Hassan ibn Thabit, he was a poet of the Prophet ﷺ, right? He was a poet of the Prophet ﷺ. You know how he became Muslim? The Quraysh gave him a certain amount of money. They said, look, he was a poet. He was known to be a poet, right? And so they said, we're going to pay you to write some couplets, to write some poetry, insulting the characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ. So they paid him this money, They said, wait here, when the Prophet ﷺ comes, when you see the Prophet ﷺ, write some poetry insulting his quality and his characteristics. And that way we can use that to attack him. So he went, he took the money, he went. And he waited for the Prophet ﷺ to come. When the Prophet ﷺ came walking, you know who the Nabi of Allah is? You know, when Jabir ibn Samurah, he was out with the Prophet ﷺ in the middle of the night. You know, in the desert, there's not much beauty, right? There's like sand, and there's some more sand, and probably some more sand, and that's about it. So when you go out in the middle of the night, and you see this huge full moon, and in the desert, the moon is much more, appears to be much bigger than it is here, right? When you've been there, if you've seen the desert in the full moon. So the full moon in Arabic poetry has been taken as one of the standards of beauty. That's how they described it, right? So Jabir ibn Samurah, he says, I went out on a night that was a full moon. And the Prophet ﷺ was wearing this red cloak. And he says, I began to look at the full moon and look at the face of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, you know, فَجَعَلْتُ أَنْظُرُ إِلَى الْقَمَرِ وَأَنْظُرُ إِلَى وَجْهِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. So I would look at the moon and I would look at the face of the Prophet. Then he says, فَلَهُ عِنْدِي أَجْمَلُ مِنَ الْقَمَرِ. I came to the conclusion that the Prophet of Allah is more beautiful than the full moon. Right? So this is the Prophet of Allah. He comes walking. Hassan ibn Thabit, he sees him. When he sees him, it's like he pauses. His heart stops. And he's amazed by just his quality, his presence, his aura, his beauty. And he goes back to Quraysh. And he gives them back their money. And he says, your money, you can have it. I have no need for it. And he says, as for this man who you wanted me to insult, so I make Allah a witness, that I bear witness, he is the messenger of Allah. Just by seeing the Prophet ﷺ. And then he said poetry praising the Prophet ﷺ. He says, لَمَّا رَأَيْتُ أَنْوَارَهُ سَطَعَتْ وَضَعْتُ مِنْ خِيفَتِي كَفِّي عَلَى بَصَرِي. He says, when I saw the light of the Prophet ﷺ shining, I had to put my hand over my eyes to cover, to protect my eyes from the radiance that he emitted. He says, خوفا على بصري من حسن صورته فلست أنظره إلا على قدري. He says, out of fear of like losing my eyesight of how beautiful he was, from his beauty, and he says, and I could barely even look at him because of how shining his face was. He says, روح من النور في جسم من القمر. He says his soul was like from light, and his in a body that's from the moon, as if his body is like the beauty of the moon. He says كحلية نسجت من الأنجم الزهري, as if like a beautiful ornament woven with stars. I mean, that's how he described the Prophet of Allah. So Hassan ibn Thabit was a poet. Right, just like now we're going to have some awesome poetry inshallah. Hassan ibn Thabit, who was a poet, after he became a Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ used him to serve the deen, to write poetry in praise and defending the Sahaba, and in praise of the Sahaba, and in times of battle to encourage the Sahaba. He was used as someone, his skill. So whatever it is, if you're good at video, if you're good at graphic design, if you're good at drawing, if you're good at whatever, there is a place for your services in Islam and in this masjid and in your community. And this masjid is a case in point. Which masjid can you think of has a fishing club? I mean, that's awesome. Which masjid can you think of has a drama club, right? A cooking club. I mean, those are amazing things, right? Because and that's the idea. The Prophet, that's what he did. He took people based on their talents and he used them in the service of the deen. And that's the idea, that everyone should feel that they have a place within Islam, that their talents can be used to serve Islam and further the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever capacity Allah has given them the strength to do so. So inshallah ta'ala, I hope we'll enjoy the program. I'm looking forward to it, to see the talent of Toledo, and of course listen to Ammar. So jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brother, next we would like to invite Brother Ammar Al-Shukry. Brother Ammar is a poet from Queens, New York. He began his study of the Arabic language at an early age and has been working to translate the works of classical and contemporary Arab poets. He has published an abridged translation of the Diwan collection of Imam Shafi'i and maintains the website IamAmmar.com. And that is a site that carries his translations as well as original works of his. We have the pleasure of having Brother Ammar perform at the Medina grand opening in April, and we are delighted to welcome him back to Plato. Brother?
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. All praise. It's all good. Because I didn't say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All praise is due to Allah, who is magnificent in His essence, perfect in His attributes. I'm scared to walk up to the mic. Undeniable in His presence. All praise is due to Allah, who has the most magnificent names. A praise that is forever for Him and eternally remains. May He send peace and blessings in their most perfect fashion. May He send greetings and salutations that are complete and everlasting upon the best of His creation, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May He perfect His rank and elevate His station, for He taught us what we did not know. And He gave, and He gave, and He gave, because He loved us so. So today, I thank everyone for coming out tonight. I think you guys are very nervous and busy preparing for the game tomorrow between the University of Michigan and Ohio State. I could care less about football, but I hear that it's big here. I couldn't care less about football, but I hear that it's big here. And alhamdulillah, I'm very happy to be back here at Medina Center. Like it was mentioned, I was here in April, and I'm very happy, inshallah ta'ala, to be back here. So tonight we are going to be doing a program called Lyrical Art. And the goal is, like Farhan so eloquently mentioned, to be able to kind of qualify and to be able to encourage our brothers and sisters who are writers here tonight, inshallah ta'ala. So we're going to be having a number of people, inshallah, sharing their own poetry, sharing their own work. And it is very important when you look at the role that poets have, is they capture the emotions and they capture the pulse of communities during a particular time period. And so when you look at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, yes, you'll look at the poetry of people like Hassan ibn Thabit, you look at the poetry of people like Ali ibn Abi Talib, the generations after. You look at the poetry of people like Imam Al-Shukry, and the generations after. You look at the Abbasids, you look at the Umayyads, and all of their poetry. When you look at American poetry, you look 100 years ago, you look at the poetry of someone like Edgar Allan Poe, and 40 or 50 years ago, you look at someone like Robert Frost, and they record the emotions of a people at the time. You look at someone like Allama Iqbal in Pakistan, and how he literally captured the feelings of a people who had established a state that they believed was going to be founded because of Islam. And the beautiful poetry that Allama Iqbal recorded with regards to the feelings of that people. You look at someone like Shawqi, rahimahullah ta'ala, may Allah have mercy on all of them. And these are just single individuals. But the amount of effect that they had on the consciousness of the people, not only themselves, but the people after them, is really overwhelming. So inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be encouraging that. And alhamdulillah, I'm very happy to hear that this place, that the center has a center for a project with regards to drama and the arts, because I believe that that's something that's very important, inshallah ta'ala, as well, which I'll probably be jumping in and out talking about throughout the night. But I wanted to, inshallah ta'ala, begin with the first poet, inshallah ta'ala. Who here has poetry that they're going to be performing tonight? MashaAllah, excellent. Okay, great. So let's start, inshallah ta'ala, with the first. If you could come up, inshallah. Yeah. Yes, sir. Inshallah. Yusuf. Okay, so we'll begin, inshallah ta'ala, with Yusuf here. Yusuf, you look like you're in college. You are?
Yes.
What year are you?
Freshman.
Freshman, Allahu Akbar. Where are you studying?
Theater.
Wow. You're not pre-med?
I know, right?
MashaAllah, studying theater. That's awesome.
That's theater pre-med.
MashaAllah. Great.
I act like a doctor sometimes.
You're going to be a dramatic doctor. You know what I mean? Monologues in the ER room and stuff like that. Okay, inshallah. So, Tafadhal Yusuf. So I have a couple of rules. So just very quickly, you guys, I'm sure all of you look like you've been to many poetry clubs in your life. So how do you encourage someone as far as a poet goes? So we don't do clapping like this in poetry, right? At least in America, we do the finger snap. Okay? So if you hear something that you like, feel free. Be very free with the finger snapping at any point in time. If you're Egyptian, you can say Allah Allah. Say Allah iftah alayk. You can say something like that, but only if you're Egyptian. Otherwise, just inshallah, the finger snapping should be sufficient. Okay? And Tafadhal Yusuf. Just mention the name of your piece, what it's called.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I'll read this off my phone because I didn't memorize it like I thought I would. I named this piece, I actually wrote it a little while ago for a group I'm in called America's Pride, which we go and talk to kids and kind of motivate them to stay out of the drugs and the alcohol and all that. I named it The Book, and the idea of it is kind of like an empty book because anyone can take away any kind of meaning that they feel from it. So this is the book. Every day is a new page. It sounds cliche, but it's how life is. Every day lived is a page written, and we hold the pen that fills those pages, and the pen that continues to fill them. Those pages may be torn and ripped and burned, but the ink from our pens can only be seen through the lens of someone who wants to look past those beat-up sheets. We ask ourselves, what good is our book if nobody wants to read it or open it up? Will the beating our pages take and the attention given only to our mistakes define the story we are writing? No. No, the strength we have to turn that page and pick that pen back up, even when it seems that the weight of the world is falling down on it, that is what defines our story. That urge to keep writing, that urge to turn the page, it's what makes your book, it's what makes our book worth the time to open up and read. And so some people may judge a book by its cover, but that book being judged is a book like no other. A book that has meaning and devotion. A book that is defining. A book that has such a strong binding that nothing can pull it apart. And the critics will try and add to your page, and when you try and stop them, they will tear at it and attack it and do all they can to stop it until all your pages become filled with fear. So it all comes down to how you script it. Will you be the writer of your own book? Or will you let others' ink bleed through to your pages while your ink slowly fades? Will you let others fill your pages? Or will you be the writer of your own story, your own book, the writer of your own life?
No, get used to it. It's called behavioral flexibility. Behavioral flexibility, inshallah ta'ala. So can we get one round of for Yusuf? You're very nice, mashallah. I'm really impressed that he's a theater major, to be honest. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Even if he's theater pre-med. Even if you're theater pre-med. And the reason because really when you just look at the effect of media and how we all know it affects our lives very, very much. So it's very important that that becomes part of our message as well. That we have people who are skilled in theater and drama and multimedia and all of these things, inshallah ta'ala, that we can able to project the message of Islam further, inshallah. So we're going to jump right into the next presenter, inshallah ta'ala, who is Alexandra. Hello. Welcome, come on up. Are you in college as well?
Yes, I am.
Great, what do you study?
Nursing.
Excellent. So Alexandra is studying nursing, and she has a piece for us as well.
Yes.
You can just mention the name of your piece.
Is it okay if I speak on the floor? The only reason being is that I love when people see me for who I truly am, and speaking behind a podium, you don't get the full picture.
Sure.
So, here I am.
You need the mic?
Oh, no, I don't need the mic. I have problems with mics because I always end up breaking them. So, I never really like
stay away from the mic then.
Yes, I will not touch it, I promise. Just a little bit of background. I am in speech and debate. I am what you call a prose poet. This is the first time I've ever been given the chance to perform any of my pieces, so this is really exciting for me. This piece is very special to me because my best friend suffers from cleft lip and cleft palate. And if any of you know what that is, his lip, the skin is missing and it travels into his nose. And his entire life he's had to deal with discrimination and people bullying him, people labeling him, and it's really hurt him his whole life. And I just remember one day he came to me in tears and just sobbed and looked at me and said, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I wrote him this poem to make him feel better, and it's one of my best works, so I hope you all enjoy it. You were designed to be loved, and to be loved by me. Your face tells so many stories that I wish the world could see. You call yourself a monster because of the way you look. But I think it's better than any story, than any ordinary book. You say that you're just a mess, but I'll call you art. Yes, abstract, but the kind that somehow touches everyone's heart. You are a rocket set to launch, but here you stay at base. Your creator and others tell you it is monsters that you will face. They'll rip you apart and eat you alive, and when you're out there all alone, and it is this that spins in your head and keeps you locked at home. The knowledge and excitement and adventure can only quench your thirst, and sometimes you have to get out there and find the monsters first. And it is only then, when you are out there all alone, that you will find that the only monsters you ever have to fear are already dwell inside. It is fear, you see, fear of rejection, fear from a little boy or girl. And this keeps us all at base and prevents us from seeing the world. Thank you.
I thought that was really well written, and the imagery was very nice. Very well done. Very well done. So we have two poets, inshallah ta'ala. We're going to continue, inshallah. We have a number, actually we have Reem Musa, who's going to be sharing with us a couple of poems, inshallah ta'ala. So, Sister Reem, tafadhali.
Most of my poetry I write because we all experience the same things throughout our lives. So I focus in and hone in on one thing and explore it to its fullest ability in my poetry, just to kind of get it out. And once you think about something and then you create something and then you record something, it's gone through and through. And there's no possible way that you could understand it anymore. My first piece I actually never named. I just can't come up with one. But here we go. Voices are raised, but they fall upon deaf ears. Words crumble dead to the ground. Every fiber of my being tenses and screams. The pressure in the air threatens my lungs with collapse. Though this is only a simple relapse. I allowed myself to believe that you changed and listened. I let myself reel and feel, forgot to deaden myself while I heal. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 100 times, shame on me. And you have shamed me time and time again, making me think that I had finally gained something I was always meant to have. I retreat from this play you have created, and excuse me if I don't offer you a standing ovation, but that finale left me in a bit of devastation. I don't know if I want an explanation or to know what exactly gave you the inspiration. Are you seriously going to play the innocent victim, pretending to be some viewer in the stands instead of the director, having everyone playing into your hands? Oh yeah, I guess that would fit into your twisted plans. But don't take me for a fool simply because I have been fooled. But you certainly are, because you fooled yourself. The con man conned by his own con. It's obvious that you're drowning, despite all the years that you have been living, years of knowledge and experience, years that should have brought you higher to the light of reason and understanding. But you don't understand. You are still senseless, cut off from your senses, blind to the light, deaf to the notes of this world, unaware of reality. So forgive me if I don't swear to you my fealty, for I am not one to follow blindly. I will not serve one who has betrayed me, even if it was unknowingly. Keep in mind that your blindness does not affect my sight. I can still see how you hurt yourself and everyone else. And though it appears that may have been the one cut most deep, I cannot bear to see you leap and go against things that we believe in. So cut me. I know you can't help it, so know that I will help you. Even though I am confident that when the dust settles, when the blood has been bleached away, and when the fires have died, you will approach me, bearing a peace offering, one atop a silver platter, shine to perfection. You will release words asking for exception, thinking that what I want is an opportunity to give you exemption. But the platter will shine in my sensitive eyes, your voice will pain my knowing ears, and the smell of sweetness will sicken me. And all I will see in that peace offering is a huge neon sign with big bold letters underlined and italicized reading, "Not listening." Nothing's changing. I know that you love me, believe it. The thing is, I don't feel it, don't you see it? And I still have to carry you until the day that God commissioned death to take you. Maybe then you will achieve clarity, because right now, reality is a risk to your sanity. But I'm not leaving. I know that you cannot live without me, and I cannot live knowing that I could have prevented your self-served demise. Trust me, I realize that in this way we are linked. Even though you are ignorant, even though I'm weary beyond belief, even though staying near you causes me grief, it's time for me to accept all that. It's time for me to go primal and adapt. So go ahead, cut me, even though you love me. The next ones aren't that long, I promise. This one is called Honor to Hands. Hands are tools as well as companions. Hands can join with another's and understand. Hands can fight with another's and still understand. They help connect one to the world, to hold it and mold it. Every living soul will come to shape this world, for being alive does not matter if you are not living. You cannot live without willing, and you cannot will without hands. For hands are the tools that put one's will to action. Those hands will heal and not harm. Those hands will put pen to paper in order to bring peace to worlds. If that pen were to fail, those hands would raise a shield and defend and protect. If that shield were to fail, those hands would simply accept. They would lower themselves rather than wield the sword and slay, for no human should be another's prey. However, those hands will not surrender to slaughter. Those hands will sacrifice for the greater good. They will join others in brotherhood. No, not that of race or religion, but that of humanity. Those strong hands, though they do not shake or waver, they are sure. They do not fail, just as any tool that they may grasp. And I pray that maybe I'm not so naive in thinking that maybe one day those hands may become my hands. The next one is called The Impossible. We are all semi-normal people living semi-hectic lives in a semi-twisted world. We all have needs and wants and everything in between. We all ask for small things and big things, classy things and cheap things. And every once in a while, we wish for the impossible. We ask for perfection from the world. We wish for a paradise and a utopia. We wish for an end to all that is pain or strife, all that is hard in life. But then we stop. We tried ourselves. We are fools, we say. The impossible will not be found in this life, but we still foolishly yearn for complete peace and ease, for the hardest thing in this life is living. And the last one is called Believing in All That We Are. They are better. They are the versions of ourselves that we aspire to be, the versions of ourselves that we can never be. We are made of flesh and blood. They are of pain and doubt, of dreams unspoken and of failures hidden. We live in the literal and they live in the figurative. And it's a bit of an inverse relationship. The more we hate ourselves, the more we love them. And when we are hated and they are loved, when we fail and they do not, when we are scarred and they remain unscathed, they turn sharp in our minds. The idea of them solidify. They are the best that can possibly be imagined. We appear unworthy and unwanted, for better can always be seen. We become still. We wait until we can be better, until they fade and we shine, until they fall and we are fine, until we believe in all that we are, until we believe in a true existence, so that we may feel true connections, one that can only be made in this dimension, the dimension of reality.
Before you leave, what makes you write?
I actually haven't written in a few years, and when I did start writing, had been my first time. I think it's because I think about so many things, and I make sure to feel them every time fully. And so I always have these thoughts on so many things, and I always think about them, but I never write them down. I never explore them that much. And I think that's something that poetry really gives me, a chance to explore not only an experience that I've had, but somebody that else has had, and either helps me or them. There's no really bad way about it. There's no wrong, there's no right, but there's just you and what you think and what could possibly be. I mean, it's endless.
Thank you very much.
Gonna crack that, right?
Isn't this finger snapping fun? Loving it, huh? It's very serious. It's very serious, mashallah. Well, I love that answer because really it's so much of people's potential gets fulfilled just by being consistent. And so a lot of times we try something and it doesn't work out, or we don't like it, or what have you, and then we don't try it anymore. And something that I've heard from so many people who are writers, whether they write prose or poetry or anything that they write, they'll say, you have to write every day. Just write every day. Whether it's you feel like writing or you don't feel like writing, whether you write a page or whether you write 3 sentences, just make sure that every day you're just writing something. And over time, you will just flow. You'll get to know yourself better, you'll know yourself, and you will be able to write. And what you don't like at the beginning, you will be able to connect the dots. So many times, subhanAllah, where this has been my own personal experience, is that I'll write something on a Monday of October 2011. And it will just look like it's complete garbage. It's terrible. There's nothing about it that's connected. And then I'll revisit it maybe a year later, and there will be a phrase in that mess. There will be a phrase that will connect with me. And from that phrase, I will be able to draw inspiration, for example, for something that will just flow later. But all of that comes through the continuous process of writing. And it's not just for people who are poets or writers or what have you. There are so many, subhanAllah, there's benefits. It's basically just creativity. And writing is one of the main ways that you open it up, whether it's painters or anything else. And everyone is an artist to some extent. Everyone is an artist to some extent. So inshallah ta'ala, we have some videos that we'd like to play, inshallah. We have some videos, inshallah, before we go to our final poet. Inshallah, we have a sister who is going to be sharing. She wasn't able to be with us tonight, Sister Khadija. And she will, inshallah ta'ala, will have a couple of poems, short pieces, inshallah ta'ala, that we'll be playing for her, inshallah. Woo, look at that. You can tell this is going to be hot fire.
Terrorism is the act of terrorizing others, whether with words or beating on brothers. It's not specialized to one religion or one group of people with the same vision. It is the act of harming others by shooting and screaming and beating on mothers. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim or not, because there's terrorism in every religion we've got. But all people see is 9/11, when many Americans went to heaven, but among the dead were Muslims too, whose families mourned just like you. But also remember Bosnia and Palestine, where Muslims were killed, but you said it was just fine. There are murderers and killers present everywhere, but they're not considered terrorists if they don't cover their hair. But if they protect themselves to save their own souls, they're considered terrorists, don't you know? But people forget that at one point in time, when Muslims ruled Spain, there was no pain. All religions were equal and treated the same. No one was persecuted or called insane. But you've forgotten and turned to blame a religion of people, though you and they are the same. You both have families and values and love, and believe in the Creator, the God above. But people don't see. They don't understand. They want Muslims to leave, go back to their land. But we turn and look and stare confused. This is our land for which we've paid our dues. We've been born here and raised here and paid our taxes. What more do you want from your accusations like axes? What defines an American? What makes you so? Your religion, your color, your blood type? No. What makes you American is to be born and raised in a country in which good values are praised. Freedom and justice and peace in religion, not to be treated like some common felon. I am patriotic and I do care. So why should you hate me because I cover my hair? You should look up to me with awe in your eyes, for I've suffered much more at the hands of these lies. So listen to me, for I should know. Being a Muslim is not just a show. We are peaceful and caring and hate violence too. So why you hating on us and we not on you? Do not make the mistake the Germans and whites did before, who judged based on color, religion, and more. We should treat each other equal. It isn't a tour, for peace and equality are best to have in store. We should band together, overcome this hated other, and be a group of happy sisters and brothers. So let me tell you just one more time, take heed of what I've said in my catchy rhyme.
Have you ever heard of the bystander effect? It's the idea that the more people around, the less likely one of them is to stand up and help someone in need. But why? Because the more people there are, the quicker everyone is to assume that someone else will take care of it. But will they? Why is it that we tend to push everything off onto others? Why is it that we can never take ourselves in stride and do something? We can't push our sins off onto others when we stand in front of Allah on Judgment Day. We can't blame our busy lives for our lack of activism, for not helping out a brother or sister when they were in need. How many people do you know who became famous because they fit in? Because they talked, walked, dressed, and thought in the same ways those around them did? None. It's those who took risks and were willing to throw everything away for what they cared about who made the difference. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad was tormented and tortured for going against the grain, and yet he is held in the highest of honor, even by those not of his faith. Why? Because when you set your own identity and let people see you stand out and stick to those values, they respect you. We need to make our own histories, tell our own stories, do our own deeds. Allah put us in our situations for a reason. What that reason is, many of us will not know. But when we pass up these opportunities, these chances to make a difference, we've turned down yet another chance to do something useful with what Allah has blessed us with. So we don't want to be the bystanders. We want to be the doers. There's this person who loves chocolate. You could give them chocolate at any point, and they would accept it gladly. This person does not hide their love. In fact, they walk around all the time with clothing that declares this affection. This person frequently attends events where chocolate is the main topic and the main course. This person is not willing to part with their ways, despite all the crazy things people say. They are called buffoons and Willy Wonka, but they do not let this stop them. Why should it? They have found something that satisfies a part of them that nothing else can. It is a part of them. So if we can look at this person and accept them in all their chocolate-loving glory, doesn't it make sense to be fair in this view? Not to call them crazy just because they like chocolate more than you?
Does anybody know Khadija here? MashaAllah. It's sad, it's unfortunate she couldn't be here tonight. MashaAllah, she's awesome. That was incredible. All three pieces were very beautiful. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. So I guess let her know on behalf of everyone here how much everybody enjoyed her poetry. It's like these are like what you see tonight, alhamdulillah, is really, really inspiring. Not only what people do and what they're doing now, but also the potential, inshallah ta'ala, of what people can do. This is something that they stick with. This is something that we stick with. And again, it goes back to the community, inshallah ta'ala, encouraging it. So I hope that everybody, inshallah ta'ala, encourages the brothers and sisters who perform tonight. And by the way, never think that this is easy. It's not easy at all. For you to, the number one fear that people have, that Americans have, before heights even, is what, does anybody know? Public speaking. And public speaking could be as simple as you just getting up and saying your name and reading something that's informational, that has nothing to do with you. But what a poet does is a poet shares their heart. And that's even more scary. They get up in front of everybody and say, these are my thoughts, these are my dreams, these are my fears, these are my pains, these are my sorrows. And they sit there and they present it to everybody. And so it's very, very difficult. It's incredibly difficult to share your own thoughts with people. And so this is what poets do. So just because, mashallah, everybody's getting up and they're doing it, don't think for a moment that it's easy. And so it's very important that they receive encouragement, nourishment, helping, inshallah ta'ala, with words. And words have an incredible effect, inshallah ta'ala. So do encourage the people that have performed tonight, inshallah ta'ala. And who knows, the next time this event like this happens, inshallah ta'ala, you'll see even more people coming out. So we want to, inshallah ta'ala, close with Sister Maria, inshallah ta'ala, who has a piece for us as well. Tfaddali. Is it Maria? Oh. Sorry.
Assalamualaikum. So I actually didn't write this, I confess. My sister wrote it and she does not want to talk.
Share it.
So I am reading. And she didn't title it, so I'm sorry for that too. Yeah. She stares at her reflection in the mirror, wondering how she let herself go so far.
That's pretty good intro.
Sin after sin after sin after sin. She was withering away. Leaving nothing behind but smudged makeup and expensive heels, she became non-existent. Her makeup made her up. She tried to reconstruct the hurtful words the others spit in her direction by proving she wasn't being obsessed by the scarf around her neck. But she was shackling herself to temptations. Wrapping her thoughts so tightly around them, she was unable to separate herself from this dunya. We're in the 21st century. Why does slavery still exist? And don't tell me it doesn't. Because I tried explaining to her that wasting money on this Coach bag isn't giving her room to carry more sins around. And I tried to convince her to go to the masjid instead of the movies, if only once. But seeing other people's words magically unfold is a lot easier than living the reality of your own. Believe me, I'm a writer, I know. But you weren't sent down to uncover the secrets of Victoria. You were created with your own secret, your dignity, and believe me when I say I have not yet found another synonym for the word beautiful that encompasses all of the vibrancy better than the innocence in a young Muslim's eyes. The beauty isn't something you could describe in words. I've tried. But Gucci and Prada are not replacements of your worthiness. Nor can they cover up the surface of your skin that riddled with regret and misconceptions. Last night, my sister told me there were satellites in the sky, dipping in and out of our conversations and listening to our secrets. This made me wonder what kind of impression I was giving these people. What they heard, and if being myself made them wonder just how much they knew about me. Funny, isn't it? How we're more scared of our government than we are of God. She stares at her reflection in the mirror, wondering how she let herself go so far. She wipes her makeup off her face. Funny, isn't it? How light you can feel with all that weight off your eyelids.
Wow. So when she was talking about her sister, she was talking about you. I paid attention to the switch. It was a little character deception, but you have to have been paying attention. Alhamdulillah, that was amazing. It was very, very good, mashallah. It was very vivid. I like that a lot. It was very, very vivid. It was very descriptive. Incredible use of vocabulary. MashaAllah ta'ala. So, great narration by the sister. I don't know if she was reading it for the first time or what have you, but I thought that was a very good piece, MashaAllah ta'ala. So, that's another person to be told to keep writing, keep writing. And there's a term for that, by the way. I'm sure, again, while you guys are in your poetry clubs on Saturday night, you've come across it as well. And the term is hot fire. Hot fire. You guys are all familiar with that, right? Hot fire? No? So hot fire is basically words that were very, very moving. Call it hot fire. I guess you guys don't call it here until you probably have another phrase for it. And hot fire can be used in any context. So for example, you can go to the masjid and say, MashaAllah, the khutbah today was hot fire. And the khatib himself, he might know that the khutbah that he gave was incredible. And so he says, oh Allah, oh Allah, these people just experienced hot fire, so protect them from the fire of the hellfire. Say Ameen. And then everybody says Ameen. It's like that, so that they don't experience hot fire twice. Anyway, so inshallah ta'ala, I wanted to share with you some of the, what I've written. And in particular, when I wrote, when I began writing as like a pair to when I was learning. I'm still learning, but I used it as a method to remember things. So I remember even in my accounting class, I would write like a super long poem just to go over all of the points in my accounting textbook. And so when I switched it to Islamic sciences, I began to write things like that. And then I discovered that in Arabic there's this whole world of nazm, of basically creating poems to collect sciences, except I was doing it in English. So how many people are familiar here with the 40 hadith of Imam al-Nawawi? Okay, so what's the first hadith? Anybody know? إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Okay, so that's the first hadith. Imam al-Nawawi, what he did was he collected 42 hadith. It's called the 40, but it's 42 hadith that he considered to be the most comprehensive hadith in Islam. All 42. So every single hadith is something that he considers to be a pillar of the religion in some sense. So the first hadith is إنما الأعمال بالنيات, which is all actions are by intentions. The second hadith, anybody know? Close, but it's a great hadith of Jibreel, which Jibreel came and he had a conversation with the Prophet and he said, what is Islam and what is Iman and what is Ihsan? Okay? So that's number 2. I'm just going to go over like the first 5 so that you understand like the rhythm of the poem that you're about to hear. The third hadith is the famous hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar. He says, Bunya al-Islamu ala khams. Islam was built upon 5 pillars. The fourth hadith is the hadith of An-Nu'man ibn Bashir, who says that the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ طَيِّبٌ وَالْحَرَامُ طَيِّبٌ. The halal is clear. بين. إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بين وَالْحَرَامُ بين وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ لَا يَعْلَمُهُنَّ كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the halal is clear and the haram is clear, and between them are doubtful matters. The fifth hadith is the famous hadith of Aisha, where she says that the Prophet ﷺ said, he says, مَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِي أَمْرِنَا هَذَا مَا لَيْسَ مِنْهُ فَهُوَ رَدٌّ. Whoever innovates in this religion of ours what is not from it will be rejected. So this poem covers all 42. So it goes, know that all actions are by intentions, and the deen was taught through angelic intervention. Islam was built on 5 pillars of might, and the angels while in our mother's wombs did right. Okay, so the fourth hadith isn't that, it's the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. حدثنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم هو الصادق المصدوق إن حدثهم يجمع خلقه في بطن 140 يوما نطفة. So, and the deen was taught through angelic intervention. Islam was built on 5 pillars of might, and the angels while in our mother's wombs did right. The deen rejects all types of innovation, and the heart is the limb's temptation or salvation. This religion is based all on advice sincere, and the sanctity of a Muslim's blood is severe. We don't ask about that which is obscure, and Allah only accepts that which is pure. We leave what is doubtful and suspect, and that which doesn't concern us, we don't inspect. And to love for you what I would love for me, and a Muslim's blood never be spilt except for 3. He says, the tongue is the most common catalyst to the fire. Speak only good, if not, then refrain. Anger is from the heat of hell. Avoid its flames. The tongue is the most common catalyst to the fire. About those things kept silent, we should not inquire. Everything that happens is only by Allah's permission, and hayat was forever written as every prophet's vision. Believe in Allah and be steadfast. Perform halal, avoid haram. Pray and fast. Perform halal, avoid haram. Pray and fast. Purification is equal to 1/2 of our iman, and oppression was forbidden to Allah and man. Everyone has something they can give in charity. Even picking up litter, a selfless rarity. The sunnah, sin is what makes your heart feel resistance and unease, and upon us is the sunnah in times of difference and disease. The tongue is the most common catalyst to the fire. About those things kept silent, we should not inquire. Be indifferent to the world, you shall be of the zuhad. There's no initiating harm or reciprocating harm to add. Evidence is to be brought forth by the accuser, and he who sees munkar must be its remover. Be the servants of Allah altogether as brothers. Allah is in your service so long as you are for each other, and every good deed Allah takes and multiplies. And He is for His awliya, their hearing, hands and eyes. Allah has forgiven us the rest, mistakes, and what we forget. We are strangers in this world, don't settle just yet. Perfection occurs when passions fall in line with the divine. And Allah will forgive all sins, and He will not mind. That's 42 hadith. Allah. Okay, so I used to do this a lot. I would take classes and then I would convert it into poetry. So I took a class called The Fiqh of Love. And this is about marriage, all of the different marriages, different aspects with regards to marriage. I took it with Sheikh Yasir Bijas, Abdullah, in 2006. And so I wrote this whole manzuma about the class. So I wanted to read for you the chapter of engagement. So he says, and this was all of the fiqh from that particular class. So this is the chapter of engagement. He says, for a correct engagement, express your desire. For a specific woman whose hand you wish to acquire, inform her wali directly in person if you wish, or send a representative who will better serve your interests. The first type of engagement is explicit, a form very direct. The second is implicit at a time when it wouldn't be correct to propose. In any case, the rules of conduct are still the same. Still not mahram, still covered with the modesty and shame, because engagements aren't binding. They can be revoked at any moment. They're used for getting acquainted and making the resolve more potent. And if she already accepted from a brother, then you must refrain. For it's forbidden to undercut him as long as the pledge remains. So the forbidden from engagements are but a few. A woman already in a state of marriage, and this leads to the one in her iddah until she's through, and if she already accepted a proposal, that means, so are you. Know that a woman desired will generally be for one of four. Her wealth, lineage, and beauty, qualities that men adore, but the one who is mentioned above all the rest is she who learns and practices her religion best. There are other characteristics that one could describe to aid the puzzle seeker on his search for a bride. To be fertile and a virgin if your status is of like, and the man be just enough older than his wife. Contentment with what Allah gives and with what He withholds. If such a sister is found, surely she is a trove. Beauty is relative, still important nonetheless, as the coolness of the eyes will lead to the soul's rest. And the best mahar is that which facilitates ease. And that is the most blessed for both families. And finally, lineage should be taken into consideration, as one's nobility should increase due to the combination. That's the chapter of engagement. Okay, so that's enough as far as the manzumas go. There's another poem that I usually share some poems on Facebook. I usually don't know what people are going to like and what they not going to like. But this is it's like a story that I remember hearing, and so I made it into a poem as well. So this story is about a guy, a young man, who, you don't have this problem here in Toledo because it's so cold, but it's probably going to happen in the spring and summertime, where people have a hard time lowering their gaze. So this story is about a young man who has a problem lowering his gaze, and he goes and he asks for help. So there once was a lad who couldn't lower his gaze. Distraught and disappointed, he tried many ways. Finally, he went to a sheikh well known to ask him advice, for his desperation had grown. The Shaykh said, indeed you've come to ask about something great. First though, I have a task. I have a friend who lives on the other side of town, and I send him a daily gift before every sundown. It was a bowl of milk, almost filled to the top. He said, take this here bowl and don't spill a drop. I am sending with you a man with great vision to make sure that you make no mistakes in your mission. The boy walked away with the milk in his hands, wishing them steady. He dared not break a command. For every step that he took, the guide watched with pierced eyes as if waiting for any mistake to arise. The boy then finally returned to the sage and said, the task is done. Now show me the way. The Shaykh said, you have done well, but first let me see. Did you happen to see the house with the gigantic tree? The boy said, no, I'm sorry, I was not aware. Well, you passed my uncle's house. Did you see him there? The boy said, no, I didn't see an uncle or tree. The milk would have spilled if I looked upwards, you see, and I was so nervous because your friend did not blink. So I watched him every step, and that's all I could think. The Shaykh said, leave now, for this task has answered the question that you wish to ask. The milk that you carried with focus throughout was your book of deeds. Much more important, no doubt. If you're worried by one who watches your every mistake, know there are angels who write if such allowance you make. Life is a similar journey, but to a different address. So be gone and focus, young lad. I wish you the best. That's it. Okay, so that's on the topic of Ghaddul Basar. I have another one, which is called the Devil's Deception. And this is a very common story, which is people when they're giving da'wah, universities, high schools, even after that, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Attaqu dunya wa attaqu nisa." He said, fear the dunya and fear nisa. Because the first fitna of Bani Israel was in nisa. And so a lot of times when we're doing this Islamic work, shaitan still comes. But he just comes in the form, or he sends a beautiful person from the opposite gender. He says, you have to teach this person. And then you say, well, you know what? I have to teach this person Islam. I have to talk to them. They said that they're not going to listen to anyone but me. They're not comfortable talking to anybody but me. So I have to be the one who talks to them. So to recognize that this is actually a step from the steps of shaitan. So this is called the devil's deception. Once upon a time, in a city nearby, there lived a sister. She was similar to you and I, dreaming dreams of marriage after college, a quiet house, a family seeking knowledge in school, biding her time, doing fine, developing her mind at the masjid all the time. Until one day, while she was sitting at the student cafe, she was approached by a guy who asked if it would be okay to talk to her. He was in a state of dismay. He was going through hard times, and 3 years to this day, he never once bowed his head to pray. He was Muslim, he said. He knew he was astray. He saw her around campus. He knew she was MSA. So he asked if she could show him the way. Now almost automatically, she directed him diplomatically to the brothers and said they'd help him in a manner systematic. He said that was problematic. The brothers are type fanatics. And without being too dramatic, he predicted they'd be static. So what should she do? Leave him to his own devices? Tell me what your advice is. This is the story. Learn this lesson well. Can't plant the trees of paradise with the seeds of hell. A devil's whisper is coded in intentions well that leads to hell, where many good intentions dwell. This is the story. Learn this lesson well. Can't plant the trees of paradise with the seeds of hell. A devil's whisper is coded in intentions well that leads to hell, where many good intentions dwell. Time went on. She would meet him twice a week. Though both times they met, she would always be discreet. He was coming along well, first surah down, then the second. He'd be done by 10. By the end of the semester, she expected at times she'd have to check him. Tell him to chill, like the time he called her up, just because he had time to kill. She bore it because he was sincere. She said it all made sense in her head, so she continued to tread down that path. She didn't realize how much she laughed. How quickly the term passed, and that wasn't even the half. She called him brother, and he called her friend. She didn't account herself when it bothered her. Then there was that time when he made her crack up. He said, if we're not married by 30, let's be backups. That's the first time she ever saw him as potential. Shaitan saw his potential and there went her potential. Let me fast forward a semester in advances. Marriage was on their mind. He asked her, he had planned it, so now she had no problem seeing him all over campus. And he promised that as soon as he corrects his finances, he'd talk to her parents, ask them in advances. But now if he asked, they wouldn't accept. But in their minds, this was something that was already set. And so they crept. Her circle of friends kept shrinking. She was spending all her time with her future fiancé, thinking, dreaming. Best times in her life it was seeming. So little concessions were small in the big scheme of things. She never touched men. For him, she made an exception. So complete the devil's deception. This is the story. Learn this lesson well. Can't plant the trees of paradise, the seeds of hell. A devil's whisper is coded in intentions well, that leads to hell, where many good intentions go. That's it. Okay, yeah, so that's the devil's deception. I wanna close inshallah ta'ala with if I can just do two more. Is that right?
You gotta do until I see you.
Okay, so I'll do two more inshallah ta'ala. I have one that's very dear to me. It's a description of Jannah, and the other is a letter that I wrote to the Prophet ﷺ. It's called Until I See You. It's called Until I See You. And so, Until I See You, I had written, like again, the whole topic we were discussing of just continuing to write. I remember writing at least 3 letters to the Prophet ﷺ, and I would write this one, and it would be terrible, and then I'd write another, and it would be terrible, and then I'd write another, and it would be terrible. And then one day I remember just getting onto the train. I live in Houston, but I'm from New York, so this was during the New York period. And I was on the train, and all of a sudden, I was going to Salat al-Jum'ah, and this just came out. And it's called Until I See You. Until I See You. And you know what's really interesting about our love for the Prophet ﷺ is until now we haven't been able to communicate to the non-Muslim community how much we love the Prophet ﷺ. They really don't understand. So when we have like a Danish cartoon that's drawn, or that Innocence of Muslim terrible movie that came out last year, and they see the entire Muslim world like react so angrily, they don't understand that to us it's more important than anything. Like, they appreciate that if a person's mother is insulted or if a person's family is dishonored, that a person would react very, very angrily to that. But the Prophet ﷺ, for us, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, I don't know why I'm pointing at this, I'm just comfortable like this. Everybody's looking like, what's going to pop up on the screen? Nothing's going to pop up on the screen. But the Prophet ﷺ is just more beloved to us than our mother and our father and our children and all of mankind, because that's the perfection of our faith. None of you believes until I become more beloved to him than our parents and his parents and his children and all of mankind. So this poem is called Until I See You. You are the best person I've ever known, the best friend I've never met. Your sincerity to me is blinding, enough to completely canvas the world with drapes that read respect, honor, love, protect, while creating a window for me to zoom in on the important things, but those things are the things that I forget or neglect. I will do better. Your ummah is fine. Not because of me or mine or wounds that heal with time, those who would die for $, but because the promise is divine. So when we feel like we're at our worst and our sadness would cause our hearts to burst, it feels like there are times when there are angels within our lines, or hovering over squares with chants of freedom in the air, and though tyrants may step on our necks, we smile. For history has always been on our side. Yours is an ummah that simply does not die. I'm sorry for my weakness. For every time I've been ashamed of your name and asked someone to call me Mo, for not knowing enough about you to defend you when they drew cartoons or made YouTube videos or accused you with the most heinous of accusations. for not getting over my distaste of reading and waiting for Hollywood to put you on the big screen so I can know something about you. As if Steven Spielberg or Mel Gibson or Johnny Depp would somehow be able to recreate the twinkle in your eye, or a beautiful bead of sweat as it scaffolds on your forehead, frantically fighting gravity, not wanting to fall off your body. I keep thinking of seeing you. And if you would smile at me, the thought gives me goosebumps. You told me to meet you at the pool. So on that day, I hope and pray that I will see you through the crowd, that no angels barricade me as I sprint at breakneck speed. I hope you recognize it's me. I will crowd the companions to get access to your vision. I will obey my thirst by quenching it from your hand. So until that day, I will pray. I will stand and I will pray as if my feet are holding the earth from splitting. If I make it, I cry at the thought of seeing you. For I know the words that I used to read from books with all too thin pages will do no justice to your voice, to your scent, to your touch, to your face. See, my messenger of Allah has always existed between the curves and dots of the Arabic alphabet. So Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in 3D, and whatever other dimensions the hereafter brings with it will be an overboard of senses. I will fall in love with your shadow. And will tell Ali that his description did not do justice. And tell my mother Aisha of how we heard her story of how you passed away between her chin and her chest, over and over and over again, and it made us cry every single time. Because we never suffered any disaster that was greater than what we suffered before our souls merged with flesh, entering an earth that was without you. Does the sky even recognize us anymore? And I will sit in the shade of your smile, and will ask you your story directly from your mouth as we sip on salsabil ice cold, and will be terribly embarrassed if you ask me for mine, because I never did anything right other than loving you. And then, if you let me, I would love for a hug. Jazakumullah khair. You know, this poem was inspired by a statement from one of the tabi'een. I heard this in a class, and the Shaykh was saying that one of the tabi'een, he was getting sleepy. He was getting tired in qiyam. He was praying qiyam. And so, when he got sleepy, he said, he slapped his thigh. He woke himself up. And he said, يَظُنَّ أَصْحَابُ مُحَمَّدٍ, to the companions of Muhammad think that they will have him خَالِصًا فِي الْآخِرَةِ كَلَّا وَاللَّهِ لَنُزَاحِمَنَّهُمْ عَلَى الْحَوْضِ حَتَّى يَعْلَمُوا أَنَّهُمْ خَلَّفُوا رِجَالًا. He said, do the companions of Muhammad ﷺ think that they're going to have him again exclusively in the hereafter? No, by Allah. We are going to crowd them at the pool so that they know, the Sahaba, that they also left behind men. The Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ, it wasn't just a bunch of punks that came after the Sahaba, no. There are men in every generation. There are men in every generation. Okay, and by men, I mean Rijal. A Rijal is a person who stands on his 2 feet. Sometimes women are more Rijal than the Dhukur. Sometimes the women are more Rijal. They take firmer stances. SubhanAllah, I saw a picture of Rijal yesterday. It was how many girls in Egypt, they've been sentenced to 11 years imprisonment for throwing up Turab Asad. Anyway, they were all smiling on camera. I said, SubhanAllah, they're fearless. Anyway, so the last poem that I want to mention, inshallah, is this is a description of paradise. And this is what it's all about. It's all about Jannah at the end of the day. And so I need you to close your eyes for this one. It's not as long as the Nuniyya of Ibn al-Qayyim. But this is the reason why we do everything. And it's important that we constantly remember Jannah, and we remember the hellfire, because these are the things that remind us of the fleetingness of this world. Jannah is paradise. So this is the description of the Islamic view of paradise, at least as per me. If your eyes are open, I can see that your eyes are open. You're not tricking me. That's the way that eyes work. One eye can see the other. Close your eyes and imagine this. Eternal bliss. Your every wish at your fingertips. And more. Perched on a throne near a stream. So serene and exquisite a scene you've never seen. Yet you still dream of more. Gone is pain, gone is fear. Gone is grief, gone are tears. Idle speech you shall never hear. And the prophets make up your social sphere. And more. The martyrs, the righteous and the truthful too. You are from them, they from you. They held tightly to what they knew was true, and to join them, you did too. There's more. Maidens chased to restrain their gaze, lost in a glance for days and days. Fun and frolic as a child plays, where the breath that leaves your lips is praise of the one who gave you more. Imagine you and your father with ages the same. Imagine showing off your book with no shame. Imagine nights with the Sahaba, their stories to entertain. Now imagine Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, knowing your name. What could be there more? Gardens underneath which rivers flow. A goal so far and yet so close. A journey worth taking for those who know. Tell me, do you not wish to go for more? For all the bounties, all the grace, all the sights and the smells and the tastes will be forgotten without a trace, as if frozen in time and space when you see His face. اللهم إنا نسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك الكريم. What an excellent master of a miserable slave. You forgot, He forgave. He gave you guidance, and you still strayed. You asked for mercy. That He gave. And more. And more. And more. That's it. Jazakumullah khair, everyone. With that, inshallah ta'ala, we come to the conclusion of the program. I want to thank everyone who came out and performed. Firstly, all of the people who came out and performed, inshallah ta'ala. And the second is, of course, everybody who volunteered and helped, inshallah ta'ala, organizing the program in Medina Center, for continuing to provide very unorthodox, innovative programming, and innovative in the good sense. And I hope, inshallah ta'ala, that the community continues to innovate and to become a leader in the national level, inshallah ta'ala, with the things that you guys are doing here, and the products. And the products, the greatest products, of course, are the people. And inshallah ta'ala will be emerging from these walls, inshallah ta'ala, from this community, inshallah ta'ala. So ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to bless this community and to bless the people who are working in it, and to grant you all ikhlas, inshallah ta'ala, in your speech and in your actions. And that, inshallah ta'ala, this becomes a vehicle that brings many, many people closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and introduces many people to our culture, Islamic culture, and to the culture of the Muslims. And finally, inshallah ta'ala, I do want to mention, I want to thank Farhan, of course, for coming. Jazakallah khair for giving me the ride. Barakallahu feek, and for the brothers, inshallah ta'ala, who, Dr. Muhammad and everyone, inshallah ta'ala, who helped organizing this program. And finally, I wanted to mention, inshallah ta'ala, that myself and Farhan, the reason why we're, or at least the reason why I'm in the Detroit area this week is because of the program, which is Fest. And a little bit of my story, I didn't really mention it at the beginning, but a lot of times people ask me, they say, like, where did you go? Where did you travel? Did you study overseas anywhere? And I always say, no, I'm just here, Queens. I'm from Sudan, I'll always be from Sudan. But I grew up almost my entire life in Queens, New York, other than a couple of other places. As far as where I learned Islam, like you guys heard it, I just learned it from people here, all locally in the United States, as local as the United States is. Taking classes, particularly with the Maghrib Institute, and alhamdulillah, I've benefited a lot. I know Farhan's benefited a lot, and inshallah ta'ala, next weekend there's going to be like a one-day extravaganza. It's called Fest, and people, it's going to be in Dearborn, inshallah ta'ala, and I hope that everyone, inshallah ta'ala, is able to make some time next Saturday to come. My shuyukh will be coming from all over the country, people that I've really, really benefited from, and I know that everyone else, inshallah ta'ala, will benefit from as well. It'll be a one-day festival. That's why it's called Fest. Lots of beautiful topics. Alhamdulillah, it's going to be around 1,500 people there, and it's almost sold out. So Farhan has some tickets, inshallah ta'ala. Some rare golden tickets, Willy Wonka style. If anybody, inshallah ta'ala, would like to confirm their tickets, inshallah, you can just stop by us, inshallah, at the end. Barakallahu feekum, jazakumullah khair. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. MC extraordinaire.
Like you said, basically like to thank everybody for coming out, all the performers. You guys did wonderful. Special thanks to Brother Ammar and Brother Farhan. If you guys would like, there's pizza and refreshments in the back, and thank you all for coming.
One.